seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
What is going on, everybody? Hello and welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Tuesday, February the 13th, 2024, years after zero, and you are joining me just in time for this week's episode of OTP Tuesday. A lot of stuff going on throughout the race world, but this is Big Buck Week. That is right. We are just a couple of days past the Sumter Enduro opening up on the National Enduro side of things, and we are just a few days away from going GNCC racing. Now, racing for the year has been in full swing for a few weeks now from different series throughout the country, but it really, you know what I mean? It really just gets the juices flowing. Once Big Buck is here, that is like, that's the holy grail. That when the GNC season starts, that's when it's like, all right, we're thick. We're into it. But, like I said, racing's been going on for a couple weeks now. We've seen riders on their new bikes. We've seen riders on their new teams. Now we've seen riders on the smaller bikes that they're going to be riding this year, talking about Thad Duvall and Josh Toth. Actually, I don't know what Josh Toth rode this past weekend, but he rode it pretty well because he rode it to a fifth-place finish on the weekend, but I don't know if it was a 250 or a 450. Didn't think about that until right now when I started talking about it. But long story long, Big Buck Week is something to get excited for. All the other races, yeah, they get the juices flowing. They get you back in action. This past weekend, Mid-East also opened up, the Mid-East Hare Scramble Series. I'm the announcer of that series. I was sick as a dog going into the weekend, but felt good to be back at the races. Like, all right, here we go. Back on the microphone, back at the races. Mid-East is kicking off down here in North Carolina. Brand new track for the season, which was pretty sick. But at the same time, Big Buck Week just feels different. There's going to be more people at Big Buck this weekend than any of the other series that have happened so far. And it's just, GNCC has grown into such a big entity. It's grown into such a big event, such a prestige series. We talked about it time and time again. This is the series that contracts are signed for. People sign contracts to race GNCC and then something else. And so it's hard to beat that pressure, that buildup, that, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. Because if you're listening to this right now, you're thinking the same exact thing. Like, yeah, we've seen the new riders, we've seen the new bikes, but like, how's it going to go for 3 hours at Big Buck down in Union, South Carolina? That's what we are all ready to see, and we're just a few days away from seeing it. So, can't wait to get the GNCC season kicked off. Can't wait to see everybody out there. That's where all the rigs show up for the first time. That's where all the people come out in droves to go to the Big Buck Hill Climb. Man, it's going to be a good weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. We're going to be out there. All sorts of stuff going on this weekend. And, yeah, can't wait to see you guys at the Big Buck GNCC. That being said, we got some shirts, hoodies, all sorts of goodies. We've been selling and shipping out, so appreciate everybody that has brought an order or got some OTP merch online. Really appreciate you getting those shipped out. Finally got my whole shipping routine dialed in now, so if you order some, should be shipped out pretty quick. We got things on demand. They're going, so check us out. The link in our bio, you can find the online store, or if you're going to be a Big Buck this weekend, I'm going to bring a slew of some shirts and some hoodies with me, but if you want to guarantee that you have an OTP shirt or hoodie, shoot me a message, and I'll bring it to you at Big Buck if you're going to be there. That way, you know you'll have it for the race and save on a little bit of shipping costs because we'll be right there at the track. So if you want something specific, let me know. And once again, appreciate the support, everyone that has bought stuff from the store so far. One of the cool things about it, too, is I'm printing it all in-house. So screen print it, good quality stuff. It's not going to not gonna wash off when you throw it in the washing machine, but the fact that I'm kind of printing it as you order. So everything that has been sold through the shop has been personally made right here in the OTP studio. But the cool side of that too is I don't got to order and build up a whole bunch of inventory and then sell the stuff that I got. That means I can kind of customize stuff. Say you want OTP, but you want it on a red crew neck. Shoot me a message. We can make it happen. If you want it on a purple T-shirt, shoot me a message. We can make it happen. So that's kind of the cool thing about doing it right here and printing it is that you can throw it on anything. So if you want some custom OTP stuff, let me know. And then also at the races, the plan throughout the year is kind of do some one-off stuff that you normally can't buy. So different colorways, different things like that. Just kind of keep it fresh, keep it interesting, do some limited edition stuff. So appreciate you guys supporting the show by doing that. We're making a big push this year. I know it hasn't seemed like it so far, but we're making a big push this year. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but a couple weeks ago, I did mention like something about my older brother. He actually had he's 100% disabled from the military, and he's been living with me for 3 years now, kind of helping each other out with that whole situation. But he had another brain procedure at the beginning of the month last month, and then since then he's been back in the hospital 4 different times, including going back for the 4th time yesterday. So brought him back right after the Mid-East race and everything from this weekend. So he is back admitted to the hospital again. And out of 44 days of the new year, we have spent 24 of them in the hospital. And in between the procedures and the hospital stuff, obviously, taking care of him and with everything that's going on. So if you are a T's and P's type person, I do appreciate the T's and P's. I did have a lot of people reach out to me about my brother when we talked about it on the show before. So yeah, it's been tough. Been tough trying to deal with all that. The last stint, my dad actually had COVID. My mom lives in Florida, so spent really full time up there, back and forth between them and taking care of our dogs and going to the hospital. So I don't want to dive into the weeds, but yeah, just none of that was on any of our bingo cards for the year. So yeah, T's and P's out to my big brother. Like I said, he's in the hospital right now. So hopefully we can get this stuff cleared up. But that being said, it has made it hard to get a lot of stuff done. So I do apologize for skipping out on a couple of weeks, but we do have big stuff in the plans. We do have stuff in the works. And, yeah, we're going to change the landscape of OTP. But through all of it, your support means the absolute world to me, and I can't thank everybody enough for the support anyway, whether it's messages, whether it's just simply listening to the show, people reaching out, or, like I said, the shirts, the hoodies, all that kind of stuff. It goes a long way, and I do really appreciate it and appreciate you being here listening to On the Pipe podcast. That being said, we're going to talk about Sumter results here in just a moment, and then surprise news. Big Thomas Caldwell is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about the GNCC, kind of look forward to some of the storylines and what you can expect this weekend. So stay tuned. We'll be chatting with Big Tom. Also want to let you know real quick, this episode is brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. We've talked about Zach Tussle time and time again on the show. He is a longtime supporter of OTP. He is a alumni of the On the Pipe podcast and a good friend of the program. So he is also a racer and a financial advisor, and he works for Raymond James. So if you go to financialadvisorsdenvernc.com, you can find more information on Tussle. You can also schedule a time to chat with him. Let him know you listen to OTP. You can have a free consultation and hear exactly what it is that he does and what he can do for you. And I highly encourage everybody, start investing for the future. Zach Tussle can help you do it. Yeah. So shout out to him. He actually raced Sumter National Enduro this past weekend as well. So he's right there on the starting lines with us all. He is one of us, and he's not an old that's stuck in the past. You know, when you think financial advisor, let's be honest, you think of the olds, and you think of them being stuck in their ways. Zach Tussle, he's one of us. He's a racer. He gets it. And, yeah, he can help you and help kind of break it down and explain in our terms about the financials. So reach out to Zach Tussle. I'm telling you, he can help you out with your financial planning. You don't have to be a millionaire. You just want to have to save and invest in your future. And the best time to get started is yesterday. Second best time is today. So reach out to Zach Tussle. Beta Motorcycles is also the official manufacturer of On the Pipe podcast, but you guys already know that because you know about the premium quality and the rideability that Beta Motorcycles offer. Go to betausa.com for more information on their available models. You can also find a dealer near you so you can get your very own motorcycle and just see how rideable it actually is. And as soon as you ride a Beta motorcycle, that rideability word, it all makes sense. You know what I mean? You hear it time and time again on the program. But until you ride a Beta, the moment you get on there and start twisting that grip and hitting some turns, that's when you really feel it. Then you know exactly what that rideability means. So shout out to them. We also got some more sponsors coming up, and can't wait to tell you all about them. The other one, Battery Park Off-Road, we talked about them briefly in the last podcast as well. Battery Park is an awesome facility, first of all. And if you haven't been down there, you need to go down there because it's located right down the road from the Sumter National Enduro. It's actually on the same exact road. It's just about an hour west. They got 34 miles of enduro single track trails, one-way trails, so you don't got to worry about head-on collisions that you do at other riding parks. 34 miles, one-way trails, 15 miles of like double track, you know what I mean? A little bit more wide open, and maybe if you don't want to be banging bars or racing through the enduro type stuff, they got over 15 miles of two-track. They got camper hookups, and it's also where the Battery Park race team is out of, obviously, as well as a real-life Tyrannosaurus Rex himself, Nick DeFeo. That's his home stomping grounds, training grounds down there at Battery Park Off-Road. So it's real sandy. They got good trails. They got single track. They got double track. They got everything you need. So get on down to Battery Park, ride, get ready for the season, and also, especially like places are still cold right now. Rain is a big factor right now. Not at Battery Park. You can go down there and ride. It's going to be top-notch conditions. Speaking of being right down the road from the Sumter National Enduro and the Manchester National Forest, let's talk about it. Sumter happened this past weekend. It all kicked off down in Sumter, South Carolina, and it was a good one. It was a barn burner. Came right down to the wire, except for one man, Ryder Lafferty. He won 5 out of the 6 tests of the day, and he took home the first National Enduro win of the season. We saw Ryder get better and better and better and win National Enduro races and compete for National Enduro titles, and he starts off this year swinging on a good foot, taking home the first win of the National Enduro season. Stu Baylor would end up in the number 1 spot, so there's a lot of battle and a lot of back and forth. Grant Baylor, reigning, defending 2-time champ, I think he's a three-time champ, but 2-time back-to-back. He was running right up in the mix, second and third in those top 3 spots all day long, and to end the day, ended up having a mechanical issue that took him out of the race. So no doubt a big bummer, not the way you want to start off another defending National Enduro Championship season. So Grant Baylor was up in the mix, but ended up having suffering a mechanical issue that took him out of it. Stu Baylor, though, would end up number 2 on the weekend. Very valuable points to start the season off. Stu has been a victim of some bad luck over the past couple years. Stu is a 6-time, 5-time. 6-time, 5-time. He's won a lot of National Enduro titles, all right? And he's won a lot of National Enduro races. So he starts off with a good run, a good showing at round number 1 in that number 2 spot. He took the lone test win away from Ryder Lafferty with a win in a test of his own. And then Johnny Gerard would end the day 3rd place overall on the podium and take that final podium spot. Ricky Russell just outside of the top 3, just off the podium in the number 4 spot. Josh Toth, like both, would round out your top 5 fastest riders. And Thad Duvall letting the little girl sing. He's on the 250 this year. That's right. It's out there. You seen it? I took the pictures of it. The pictures, I think, came out pretty cool of the Red Bear Racing Team photos, but it's officially official. It's out there in the open. He was actually on the GNCC Toolbox Tuesday today, talking about XC2. So Thad Duvall on the little bike puts it 6th place overall on the day. So it's going to be interesting to see him competing in that XC2 class as we go out this GNCC season. Down in the Pro 2 class, Grant Davis would take half of the test wins of the day to take the Pro 2 overall win at the end of 6 tests of racing. Bubs Tasha was back and forth battling for that win. He would end up in the number 2 spot. And then Nick DeFeo would round out the Pro 2 podium. Now, the crazy part about this is Grant Davis, we saw him in the XC2 class last year at GNCC, where he ended up clicking off a podium finish to end the season. And then Bubs Tasha and Nick DeFeo will both be competing in the A class. So both on the podium in the Pro 2 class in National Enduro, and both competing in the A class this weekend at GNCC. So it's kind of interesting to see how all these classes change and how the rules differ from series to series, and guys running Pro 1 at one place and XC2 at the other place, or Pro 2 at one place and A class at the next place. But that's off-road racing. It is what it is. We're going to see him there. Top amateur on the day was Caleb Baltimore, getting it done in the AA class, taking the AA win and the top amateur honors. And in the women's class, Rachel Archer would win 4 out of 6 tests to take the overall win. It was a battle of the Rachels, as Rachel Goodish would end the day in the number 2 spot with 2 test wins of her own. And Shelby Turner, fresh off of 2 ACL surgeries. That is right. She got both of her ACLs fixed at the same damn time. And she comes back, and I think this was her return to racing. It ends up on the women's pro class podium with a 3rd place finish. So like I said, Mid-East, we were racing this weekend. That was a good race. Tyler Palmer led that thing down to the wire, and then on the last lap ended up having some issues of his own and made way for one of the loner Australians. There's an Australian here visiting, Riley. I already forgot how to say his last name, but he would take the win at at Mid-East. He'll be racing this weekend at the GNCC. The day before all of this happening, Full Gas raced on a Saturday, so that, like, within a couple hour radius, we had Full Gas racing, we had Mid-East racing, and then we had Sumter National Enduro. Down at Full Gas, Toby Cleveland would take the win, Dominic Morse in the number 2 spot, and Drew Calloway rounding out the overall podium there with a 3rd place finish on the day. But yeah, there was some racing that we missed over the past couple weeks. Sorry about it. We're going to get to it. I know there's a U.S. Sprint Enduro and there's some West Coast racing action. We're focusing all eyes going forward, all right? You know what I mean? Clean slate, fresh slate. We're in the mix of it. We're going forward. We're going to talk about it. Speaking of going forward, the upcoming Big Buck GNCC that kicks off this weekend, we're going to welcome back in good friend of the program, Big Tom, Thomas Caldwell. Tom, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How you doing? It's been a minute, but back again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Tell you what, this stuff that's been happening so far in 2024 was not on my bingo card, but we're trying to recover from it. We're gonna make it.
Yeah, it's I can't believe, honestly, man, 2024 is flying by. We're already almost halfway through February, and going back racing this weekend. It seems like racing just ended last 2023, like yesterday.
Dude, I go back and forth because on one hand, the off season seemed like it was dragging on for so long, but now that everything is right in the middle of it, I'm like, how are we back here so quickly? Like, how is this happening already?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if the pro guys feel the same way, or they feel like they're rushed, or kind of if it's dragging on for them, or if it's rushed for them, or if it, do they even mind what seems like a very short off season?
So, I mean, that's an interesting thing to start with right out of the gate is, like, you and I are good buddies with a bunch of the pro riders. So, it seems some of the riders don't stop riding. Like, might take a week off after Ironman, but then keep riding, like, all through November and December and then just pick it up in January. And it seems like some guys forget what a dirt bike is until January 1st and then go straight into, like, a training camp. Like, what do you think about that mix of that? Because it does seem like that there's a pretty, like, heavy mix of those two things. It's like one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for the majority of the guys, it seems like everybody does enjoy just riding, and I think for the most part, everybody seems to take a break. Like you said, right after Ironman, take 2 to 3 weeks, or at most a month, and by that time, anybody you talk to, they're itching to start riding again. That after Ironman, everybody hates their dirt bike and wants a break, but you give them a break, and that's all you want to do is ride. And I think everybody's the same way. That's what it seems like to me.
The hard part is like all the guys that like switch bike brands, because then like some contracts end in November, some contracts end in December. So then it's like, do you ride the old bike just to get seat time, or do you wait for the new bike to get in? I feel like when you're transferring between the manufacturers in the off season, that's got to be a tough one to kind of sort through the logistics of.
Yeah, especially if you're going to, say you're moving from an Austrian brand bike to a Japanese or vice versa. That's a completely different change, and not only do you have to get acquainted with a new bike and a new program, you also have to make time for testing, and it's very short.
Yeah. New suspension guys that you're working with. Like if you're switching teams, you're probably on a new suspension team, like different suspension companies. So then you got to relearn those people, and then you got to relearn whatever tires you're. I don't know. I feel like changing teams has to be like a lot more involved than I think that you would think.
Yeah. There's got to be a lot to it, and especially if you're starting up your own team, or running your own program for the next year and putting all those pieces to the puzzle together, and then logistics and all that good stuff. I can only imagine.
Dude, piggybacking off of that and jumping straight into it, Stu, I think, is a good person to start with, because kind of talking with him throughout this offseason and kind of seeing how things have come together and like all the hats that he has to wear to be able to do what he's doing. But then he was on Yamaha's actually, to go back even farther, he was on KTM's his whole career, and then he was on Sherco for like 3 weeks, and then went to Yamaha, did 2.5 years on Yamaha, switched back to KTM's last year, and now he's on Kawasaki's this year. So it's like now 3 years in a row, 3 different bikes.
Yeah, it seems wild to me that he spent so long on KTM's, and then in the last 4 years, 5 years, it's been all sorts of different bikes. But I tell you what, I wasn't expecting that team, his team that he's running, to be so big. Those photo shoot pictures that's come out, I think this week that you did. It's a much larger team than I was expecting.
Dude, just so funny you should say that, because it's a much larger team than I was expecting. Like, a quick tangent, and I don't want to get too on subject about this, but it's funny you say that, because we planned this photo shoot, and it's really been this long trying to get all the stuff together for the team to get ready to do the photo shoot. Like, we did Rachel's shoot before she went back home to New Zealand, because we didn't know when and if she was going to come back. And so we did hers, like, all right, in case the rest of the team is ready, we'll have Rachel's stuff and we can just mix it in. Well, then we go to do the photo shoot last week, and I show up, and I'm thinking Stu, Thad, and Rachel, like reshooting Rachel's stuff and then doing the team stuff together. So we show up, and first of all, I'm already like imposter syndrome, like, how did I get here? And then I'm at this piece of property, like one of the coolest properties I've ever seen down in South Carolina, and next thing I know, a van rolls in, a truck rolls in, another van rolls in, another truck rolls in, another van rolls in, and another van rolls in. And before I know it, dude, I got 7 people, all in matching gear, all with matching bikes. We got wives, we got moms, we got aunts, we got kids. And I'm sitting around like, dude, I thought I was shooting 3 people that are like I'm friends with. And now all of a sudden there's like a whole crew of people. And I was like, I'm pretty involved with what's going on over there, and I didn't know that any of them were on that team.
I tell you what, I do not envy you for that. I can only imagine not just getting, what would you say, 6 or 7 riders to do what you need to do to get all these pictures done, but throw in wives and girlfriends and moms, and that seems like a lot of questions to answer, a lot of people to organize for you.
Dude, I can go shoot a race. Like, I feel like I'm pretty decent with action shots, because it's just kind of me doing it, and then if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But when it's like a real photo shoot for a real team, and it's not just action shots, like it's posing, like, hey, I need you to stand here and do this, put your helmet here, put the bike there. Like, I was already nervous about that, and I was doing it, like I said, with like 3 friends, and then all of a sudden, like, a bunch of people I don't know are there, and like everyone's looking at me, and I'm just standing there with a camera. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what did I get myself? I was like about to have a damn panic attack.
Hey, the pictures I've seen seem to turn out pretty good, so good on you.
Thanks, man. I was nervous. But anyway, yeah, had no idea that he had that many amateurs and that many people on his team. But there they are. So getting past that, I guess the easiest way to do this is let's kind of break it down class by class. You want to start with XC1 first, or do you want to keep them as the main event for the last one we talk about?
That's up to you, man. It's your show. We can start wherever you want. You make that call.
All right, let's start with the premier class. We're gonna kind of dive into it, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rookies, 4.5 rookies, and so we got Ryder Lafferty, and most of these guys stepped up at the end of last year. So Ryder Lafferty, first year full-time XC1 guy. Lyndon Snodgrass, first year full-time XC1 guy. Mike Wachowski, Evan Smith, same thing. And then the half, or the fifth, is Dante Oliveira coming over. Obviously, tons of West Coast success, tons of West Coast championships, tons of success. He's coming over, and he's racing the first 5 or 6 rounds because Ben Kelly is out. So I guess the first thing we'll start with is, which one of these rookies do you see that could make the biggest impact?
Well, after last weekend's National Enduro and just being the first one to have some results in 2024, you'd have to say Lafferty, right?
Theoretically, I mean, look what he did last year when he stepped up to the XC1 class. He was in second place until the end of the race.
Yeah, what was that?
I think the Mountaineer.
Buckwheat?
Maybe Buckwheat. I've slept since then.
A couple times. I don't know a lot about Lafferty other than what you see on Instagram and race results, but I would say I know he's always been good at the National Enduros, but going to Sumter and beating the Baylor brothers, that's a pretty tall feat. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I know it seems like there's always a little bit of momentum for him up until the GNCCs, and then, or at least at the start of this GNCC season, and then it kind of fiddles away throughout the year. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and look how quick he came out swinging last year in XC2 before getting hurt and dealing with some stuff before that. But yeah, I think Ryder's a guy that confidence keeps on building. Like, he won those couple national enduros, he was winning the XC2 races, and now I think now with having a couple seasons of running with the big dogs in the national enduros, like having to race that Pro 1 class, like, he's used to riding with those guys. He's used to competing with those guys, and now I think we'll kind of see that confidence carry over into that XC1 class, knowing that he's starting on the same row with them and can kind of pace them and judge them and stuff right off the rip.
Yeah, it'll be something to see. That's for sure. Is he on the full gas program this year?
Yeah. Yep. He's the guy. Well, joined
one
by
of the guys. Yeah.
Joined by Jordan Ashburn, who will be on that team this year as well.
Is that who you're thinking is, going to make the biggest splash coming in, or one of these other guys you think could make some waves?
I don't know. I think it's gonna be tough for any rookie to come in and have success straight off the bat. I say that we saw Ben Kelly do it. We've seen some other guys have that great success right off the bat. But like,
well, yeah. But you asked me, well, who out of the rookies was gonna do the best? I wasn't saying that they was gonna come out and win the first race.
No, that's what I was getting at though. Is like, which one of these guys stands to have the best impact? I don't know, because Mike Wachowski always starts strong. I think
Yeah.
I think Evan Smith is going to grow into being back on a 4-stroke and being on a big bike and in that XC1 class. I think he's a guy that's going to come on a lot stronger towards the end of the season. But yeah, having the most impact, I think. Just because you already said Ryder, I guess I'll take Linden because I would say it would be between those two guys, Ryder and Linden. Linden coming off that XC2 championship, and then last year not going the way that he wanted it, dealing with health issues and whatnot. But I think Linden is a guy that has that raw speed, and I think that if he can run up there and pace off those guys, I think that he could have a lot of success in the XC1 Class 2 full time.
Linden's definitely got the speed and the talent to do it, and I think I would like to see Linden, and he's had obviously some health issues last year. I would just like to see him steady, just be steady all year. Take it as a rookie year, not show up and try to set the world on fire by going really fast. I think would like to see. I don't know, and I'm friends with him, so it'd be nice to see him just be a consistent top 5 podium threat all year long. I think that would be a fantastic year for Linden.
Yeah, 100%, and kind of settle into that thing and ease into it. And then Mike is another guy too. Like when he's on, he's on. So I mean, we could see a complete evolution out of him as well. Because one thing that kind of talked about on the show before is like the guys that spent a long time in XC2, like Craig DeLong. Craig DeLong is obviously reigning champion, but a night and day different rider than he was 3 years ago in that XC2 class.
Absolutely, and I think everybody jumps up with to the bigger class with high expectations and I feel like I almost feel like Craig jumped into the class without the high expectations and grew into it, which I there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with jumping into it and being competitive right off the bat, but everybody's kind of got their own way of doing it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think for Craig, I think it was a while to get that confidence to like feel like, hey, I belong in this class. I should be winning races. I should be getting hole shots. I should be running up front. And I think that's what he spent all of the 2022 season doing, and then taking that, rolling into this 2023 season and resulting in a championship from it.
Yeah, it's putting piece by piece by piece to complete the puzzle. Starts with something as simple as a hole shot, and then it's leading a lap, and then it's podium, and then it's being in contention for a win, for the whole race, and then and like you said, build that confidence one piece at a time.
Yeah, the milestones, checking off those milestones.
Right.
One thing I don't want to let fall by the wayside is Dante Oliveira. And I know we talked about Ryder, we talked about Lennon, we talked about all these guys, but Dante Oliveira, for me, is just such an unknown. Like the dude, you put anybody out in the desert, I'm taking Dante Oliveira. But coming over to the East Coast rounds and figuring it out, I think that's a big learning curve for once, but it's like also not being so familiar with him, obviously see his results, see his success. For one, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not informed enough to make a good assessment of him at this point, but what I can tell you is I'm excited as hell to see him come over here and do it. I'm so glad whoever okayed that, whoever figured it out, whoever put those things together, I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to to Joseph coming over. What was that last year or the year before last?
That was last year?
Yeah, I think it was last year. So it kind of reminds me of that. And I think Dante's doing more than Joseph was doing. Obviously, he got hurt at the second race, but and didn't do the third one that he was supposed to. But it kind of reminds me of that. I think he's going to come over and be fast for a little bit, but as we've seen time and time again, that 3 hour time distance of a race is tough for people that's never done it.
Yeah.
And the tracks are way different. Obviously, Dante races in the desert, and they do. I think their races are longer. I don't know exactly how long they are. I think the work races are 2 hours, and some of the other stuff are longer. But the tracks are so different, and these XC1, XC2, and even the A riders are. They know these properties like the back of their hand, and know the conditions, and they know what we're going to get going into Big Buck. So I think that would be where he struggles, and with the 3 hour race.
Yeah, and knowing the tracks, man, that's such a big event, especially somewhere like Big Buck. We race it twice a year, been racing it for 20-something years. Like, these guys remember where rocks were in the trail last year. They remember where bark is off of trees last year. Like, they got these tracks down.
Remember where the stumps are.
Yeah, and remove the ones that try to get you.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's the rookies in the class. Let's look at everybody else in the class: the Craig DeLong, the Stu Baylor, the Jordan Ashburn, the Ricky Russell, Grant Baylor, Josh Strang, Jonathan Gerard, Trevor Bollinger, Lane Michael, all these guys, the guys that have been there. What's your expectation? I don't want to jump like straight into predictions. I know it sucks being put on the spot for predictions and stuff, but I guess what are you most looking forward to? What are you seeing as far as this XC1 class? Because it is going to be the biggest XC1 class that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I was jotting these names down just before we got on the call, and I believe with these names, the returning guys and the rookies that's jumping up, I think it's a total of 14 guys, and that's just the guys on that are we know is gonna be there and that are on factory equipment. And shoot, we was lucky to have 6 at times last year and the year before. So
Yeah,
having a 14 man XC1 class is pretty exciting. That I wasn't really expecting for you to ask me what I was most excited of, but I think that's one of them. I'm very curious to see how Bollinger does come into this year. He's obviously not with the Ranch Russell squad anymore, and I know he had I don't think it's any secret that he didn't enjoy that program all that much, and now he's with a group of guys that he's buddies with, and he's got his old trainer back from his XC2 days when he won that championship, and that went well going into his start of XC1. I hope he's a good buddy of mine, and I hope he gets to come in healthy. I think he's healthiest he's been coming into a season yet, or in the last few years. And he's coming in happy, so I think it'll be very interesting to see what Trevor can do.
absolutely. And I think kind of to piggyback off what you were saying about changing his training program to something he's more familiar and comfortable with, I think that attitude and that mindset can make a huge difference. Like, when you show up to work happy and excited and around people that you want to be around, I mean, that makes all the difference in the world. And that's not a knock or anything at all negative with the Ranch Russell crew or wherever he was training at before, but for him, I think that being familiar with Tomas and and then guys down there, and they got a big crew down there, man. Like Jonathan Johnson, Brody Johnson, Mike DeLosa, Jack Walker. Like, I don't want to name them all because I'm going to forget somebody, but they got a big crew down there, and they're kind of heading up their own program and kind of branching out and doing that thing. And you would think that Bollinger's got to be leading the way with that group of riders. And at Ranch Russell, just the mindset of everyone out there is a killer. Everyone's fighting for every tenth of a second on the practice track. And, I mean, even just to go down there and to be the guy that everyone's chasing, like, I think that would probably do a lot for confidence building as well. Like, being comfortable, being familiar, knowing you're with the guy that you won a championship with, and then also kind of being the most tenured person in that group. I think has to play a lot into a positive mindset and confidence going into the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know you touched base on it before we started recording, but everybody's kind of got these different training groups, and it just kind of goes to show you that it's having a training program is almost like having a diet. Like, the diet you or I have doesn't work for Trevor Bollinger, Josh Strang, Linden, whoever, and then
You mean to tell me that these guys aren't eating cookout every day?
no, that didn't make sense. But
No,
you
I
get what
know
I'm
what you mean.
saying. So it's not an umbrella. Like, it's not just one way of doing it that works for everybody. Everybody beats to their own drum.
Yep. And now you got Ranch Russell's former trainer and Jacob Fetty that has now started another thing, and he's working with the Landers group down there and some other riders. You got Harrison with RPM that's kind of working with like the Yamaha guys, and he's got his own group of riders and stuff too. And so it's like this. I don't remember another time in history of this sport where everyone, it seems, is working with a trainer or working with a group of guys with such a focused training interval and such a focused diet, and even like the Aussies and everything that they're doing at the Oz Ranch. And I know Mike Wachowski is training with all them, and Strang's kind of heading up that program. It's like pretty much every one of these riders you can trace back to their own little group that they're all grinding with day in and day out and pushing each other.
Yeah, like it's almost making it kind of clicky.
There's gonna be turf wars out there, gang wars at the GNCCs.
Yeah, and they're all around this North Carolina, South Carolina area for the most part. So I guess it's the place to be.
Yeah, you got a little bit of everything. But yeah, so I mean, kind of like you did. I think the most exciting thing of this season is gonna be that like there's not gonna be one guy that wins 8 rounds in a row. I think we're gonna see another season where the podium could be different at every single round. That's how competitive I think it's going to be.
No, that's completely fair to say, and I don't know that we're going to get 7 winners in 7 rounds again, but I definitely don't see somebody coming out and dominating like the Ben or Caleb used to do.
Yeah, no,
which is way more exciting to me than coming into Big Buck and after Big Buck and Caleb or Ben wins, and it's like, oh shit, here we go again. So
you're asking everybody in the pits, who you think is going to get second?
Yeah, no. Luckily for now, those days are gone. But who knows? That you never know. Craig could come out and win the first 4. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, good for Craig if he does do that. But yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of parity this season. I think there's got to be so much pressure on Stu coming into it as well, just kind of given the position that he's in and changing the whole program and basically to take the leap to turn down a factory job and go out on his own last year was a big step in itself. But Stu is one of the guys, he's the first one to tell you, like, don't know how many more years left you have at this level. Don't know how long you're going to stick around. And I think his career is so accomplished, and this GNCC championship is that golden nugget, like still just barely getting away from him. And so I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be. I mean, obviously they're all going for it, and they're all going for the championship. But yeah, I would just say that there's a lot of pressure on him to run that team and then also chase that goal that he's been chasing his whole career.
Absolutely. Hopefully not as much pressure on a shock bolt this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we'll see. One thing I was going to bring up earlier when talking about Stu's team and how big it was, and it like I said, it surprised me, not just because of the size of the team, but those guys had so many bike issues last year, and I feel like the team last year was smaller than the one this year, and I don't know if that was a bike problem or if that was a funding and parts problem, but it's interesting to me that he essentially I don't want to say he lost the championship on that mechanical at Buckwheat, but it definitely, hurt it. It almost ruined his chances. And obviously the size, the more people you have on the team, the more parts it takes. The more parts get stretched thin, and for him to lose a championship, essentially from a parts failure, it's surprising to me for him to take on such a large team and have to, have and support all that with parts and budget and whatnot.
Yeah. I'm not even going to pretend to know how the back end of running a team works, but yeah, that's got to be a lot.
Yeah.
One other thing, and granted, we kind of set a time limit that we were going to get to, and we're almost there, so we're going to keep breezing through this stuff. But the last thing is another buddy, another local, Josh Strang, coming out of left field with this Sherco deal and getting on that and putting out those photos and everything as well. Seems to be really, really genuinely enjoying that bike. And the one thing off of that, too, is the guy that got me into riding dirt bikes, TJ Snow. He was the second guest that was ever on OTP 7 years ago when we first started this thing up. That was another thing that came out of left field. You got TJ Snow wrenching for him. Like I said, that's the guy literally that introduced me to dirt bikes. Like when I first started riding, it was with TJ. So cool to see Strang be able to put that deal together. And then also it'll be cool to see my buddy TJ around the GNCCs, the little a local D29 local legend on the moto tracks around here.
Yeah, and he still rips. We just rode up at the Turf Farm, Southeast Turf, and he was up there riding his 125 here a week or two ago, and I hopped in behind him in the woods, and I was like, "Oh, this guy don't ride that much anymore. I'm going to chase him down." And I ended up having a good crash, but I never caught him, so he still rips even in the woods.
Oh yeah, and dude, his style. Like when people talk about style, for me, it's TJ Snow and Josh Toth. Like you can take him to a mud race, and he'll come out at the end of that thing clean. Don't know how he does it, but it's cool to watch him ride.
Yeah, it is cool. And getting back to Josh, yeah, obviously we're both pretty good buddies with Josh. I know from the first time he rode that Sherco, he was very excited about it. Really liked it. He talked about how it, how the bike did different things than the previous bike he was on, and even like it did those things better. And that bike's for him's only gotten better. The more he's rode it. And it's a really good looking motorcycle.
Yeah.
I think. Good. It looks nice and balanced. It looks good, and even I like that he's sticking with the headlight. Even the headlight's gone, got that mesh in there. I think that looks sick.
Yeah, and that bike was very close to winning a GNCC a few years ago, and dude, it's not. I wouldn't discount not seeing that bike in the middle of a podium at some point this year.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's somebody else that, we talked about Trevor and getting away from the previous training program and enjoying stuff more. I can guarantee you that Josh is in a much better place mentally this year going into to Big Buck than last year. He's definitely excited to go racing.
Yeah, especially now
this year, yeah.
Especially now that his son is wanting to race and riding more, and then, yeah, just like you said, that mental game, I think, at the racetrack, it's going to be a lot more happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're looking forward to it. It's going to be a kind of an all hands on deck thing for whoever, these local races, the friends and family that show up. I think that's going to be his pit crew, and it'll be pretty cool to see.
Yep, 100%. A couple other guys to check in on real quick before we move to XC2. Grant Baylor, obviously coming off a couple National Enduro titles back-to-back, had some issues over the weekend, but was running really good up until that point. He won a GNCC last year. He's on the same bike, so I think he'll be comfy on that. I think he'll be one to watch out for. Recently crowned AMA Rider of the Year, I think as of like yesterday or today. And then Jordan Ashburn, kind of in a prove-it year. That whole Landers KTM team switching from the Magna 1 team, now they're KTM supported. Jordan had a multi-year deal with them, so with them switching to a 250 team, they kind of moved him laterally over to that Coastal Gas team. So I think he's going to be hungry and going for it this year. And then Ricky Russell, a lot of success last year, came on strong at the end of the year. Another guy that has ran into the bad luck bug a little bit there in the past. But I think he'll be a strong contender this year. And then Johnny Gerard. I wish I knew he was fully healthy. He was my pick for the championship roughly last year going into it, and then ended up running into some issues himself. But I think Johnny Gerard, on a good day when he's healthy, is a very fast rider that is very hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've watched a couple of his videos of recently of him at the sprint enduros, and he is absolutely ripping the cross test. I don't get it. It makes absolutely no sense.
He rides like he's got no regard for his well-being, but still has it under control. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it didn't used to be that way. I can promise you that. He's definitely got the under control thing down a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, so XC1, dude, it's gonna be awesome to see that many people on the front row. To see these 5 guys joining the XC1 class this year, super stoked. Moving on to XC2, we got some rookies that you mentioned and you brought up. Tyler Palmer, almost coming off back-to-back Mid-East wins. He closed out the season last year, taking the overall win in Hickory at Mid-East. He was leading 9/10 of the Mid-East race this past weekend. And then Toby Cleveland winning that XC3 championship. He'll be stepping up to the XC2 class. And then Jay Lipscomb on the factory beta signed his new deal for the XC2 class, where he'll be running that beta. And then other than that, I think Thad Duvall it's hard to call someone as tenured as Thad Duvall a rookie, but he will be stepping back to that XC2 class. And then we'll see Toth in some XC2 battles as well, a former XC2 champion. Both of those guys, former XC2 champions. We'll see them mixing it up as well. But then that is already a competitive class with guys like Liam Draper, like Gus Reardon, and Rui Barbosa. He's going to be back. Cody Barnes, he was right there on the verge of it all last year. Jonathan Johnson. Grant Davis coming in at the end. That's going to be another stat class to watch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys in that class. Well, I was going to say a lot of guys changing bikes, but not really as much as I thought. Thinking about it, the biggest one I can think is Brody changing to a Honda back where he had so much success in 250A. So I'm hoping that'll have him bring him some success this year.
Dude, Brody. Actually, I'm in the middle of making his T-shirts right now. I'm looking at him. But yeah, going to the Honda stuff for Brody. Brody was the guy. Like, he won that overall amateur thing when he was 17 years old. And then he ran into that issue with his leg, and his leg not healing properly, and then coming back and hurting his wrist. And he's one of those guys that stepping in, he was supposed to be going into the XC2 class that following year before that injury happened. He ended up racing XC3 instead, won an XC3 title, just hanging out, racing, you know what I mean? And, yeah, kind of like you said, man, I would love to see Brody Johnson return back to form and become Brody Johnson again.
Absolutely, and yeah, it would be it'd be fun to watch and a cool story for him as well.
Yep. Rui Barbosa, that's a guy that I wanted to kind of touch on. He had back-to-back wins last year, ended up going home and getting hurt, but I mean he was a podium guy. He was right there. He won a couple races. And I think probably that injury, because I was trying to think about this earlier. I'm pretty sure that he was leading the points or tied for the points lead when he got hurt.
If he wasn't, he was very close. Actually, no, he lost the points lead at Snowshoe. I remember sitting with him in the bar at Snowshoe and was talking about it, and I think he injured something at Snowshoe but that wasn't his Achilles. He did that when he went back home over the summer.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he had actually lost the points lead at Snowshoe, but he was right there in the mix, and I think he'll depending on how his ankle is and all that, he should be right back to it.
Yeah, so he got second at Snowshoe, but yeah, I think that's when he got edged out for the points lead. But same thing, like within like 2 points, he was in the mix for the championship.
Yeah, and looking at these top four that I got wrote down, if all four of these guys stay healthy, which is Liam, Gus, Cody, and Rui, and then I guess you throw Thad in there, you gotta expect him to be a race winner contender, right? It'd be a heck of a battle there for that XC2 class.
Yeah, and Thad, I'm excited to see where that ends up at because he's having a lot of fun relearning the 250 and stretching the damn throttle cable out on that thing, and he's seeing the lines that Stu's hitting on a 450 and then going behind him on a 250 and trying to do the same thing. And if there wasn't a guy named Caleb Russell, how many XC1 championships would Thad Duvall have? And that is the level of rider that he is. So coming off the injuries and going back to that XC2 class, I'm very, very, very interested to see where he's going to shake up at because I think Liam Draper and Gus Reardon are going to be pushing each other to even farther heights than they did last year. I mean, Gus finished higher in the overall than Liam, but Liam beat him out for the championship. But those guys pushed each other so far, especially down the stretch of the season. And now this year, Gus will have full factory support. He was kind of like on a satellite KTM program since he's been over here, but now full factory KTM. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a really big battle between those guys and then seeing where everybody else fits in at. And that's why I'm excited to see Toth back in XC2 and then also see Thad in XC2 and see where it all shakes up because Thad has that crafty veteran IQ. Thad has won the races. Thad has been in those championship battles. Thad was the guy on Caleb's rear wheel through a lot of those championship runs. And so it's a really interesting dynamic that we've never seen before with someone of his caliber going backwards to XC2.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, I think. And I was, as I was sitting here jotting some stuff down, how crazy would it be if he does this one season in XC2 and it like completely revitalizes his career and he jumps back up into XC1, he's back running up front and fighting for titles.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah, it would definitely be wild. I just want to see the guy make it through a season healthy.
Yeah.
And back to having fun and maybe riding the 250 and slowing the pace down a little bit and taking that, I don't know, that just slowing down a little bit might help that.
What if that is the guy that wins the first overall from the second row?
I'm sure there are a lot of people talking about it. I'm sure that we are going to hear a lot of that on the Racer TV broadcast this year. And he's still like the closest to ever almost do it.
Yeah. That would be a crazy storyline. But I mean that also like Magna 1 a couple years ago, they had the XC3 champion, the XC1 champion, the ATV XC1 champion as a satellite program. And I think this Red Bear Racing team is in a position where it's not unrealistic that they very well could win the XC1 title, the XC2 title, and the WXC title, and then a couple amateur titles mixed in there as well, which would also be a crazy storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely possible. It's obviously the Magna 1 showed you can do it. You don't have to be a factory team to win. So it'll be exciting. I'm excited for this weekend, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. XC3 is kind of a tough one because we never really know who's racing XC3 until you show up the first round to see it. our buddy, reigning North Carolina overall pro champion Dustin Simpson. He's going to be running the whole series in XC3. That kind of came out of left field. Jack Walker signed with Factory Beta. Jack Walker had a lot of success in that XC3 class last year, and he's down with that group with Bollinger and all them guys down there. I think that he will be an absolute title contender in that one. And then Zach Davidson will actually be stepping into the XC3 class as well. Outside of that, XC3 guys, don't hate me. I'm sorry. I don't know who else is going to be in that XC3 class until we see them line up this weekend. Is Drew Caldwell running it?
I've seen him ride a 125 some, but I've also seen him ride a couple different colored 450s. So
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's doing. He'd be good in it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he got a couple podiums in XC3 last year. That's why I didn't know if he was planning on doing the season this year or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like you said, you don't really know what those guys are doing till round one, and you see who lines up.
Yeah. So last thing here, just want to throw this out there before we part ways, but Rachel Archer coming off of back-to-back GNCC WXC championships. She's on a brand new bike. Seems to be liking that bike, obviously, with that Cowie team. Corey Steed is now full factory-supported Rockstar Husky rider. I think that's pretty sick. Rachel Guttish had a lot of success last season. And then, obviously, you got the young guns like Preston Rains, Jocelyn Barnes, but also joining GNCC this year, Jordan Jarvis, multi-time WMX champ, Loretta's champ, motocross girl. She's coming over, taking Rachel's spot on that Ampro Yamaha team. I think she'll struggle at first, but then she obviously has the raw speed. I think once she can kind of figure out the woods and figure out that pacing, I think we'll see her get better and better and better. But the other one to keep an eye on is Brandy Richards. Brandy came out and raced a few of the rounds last year, and if I'm not mistaken, got second place at every round that she came to. So her transitioning from the West Coast and being like the most dominant girl at the ISDE the last couple years, I think she is definitely going to give all those girls a run for their money. I think WXC is poised to have a very competitive season as well.
Yeah, I think they got their hands full with Rachel, no doubt.
Yeah.
She's the one to beat, that's for sure.
Yep. Actually, that was 2 years. I think last year was when Brandy Richards was hurt, but the year before that, she came over and raced a few and got second at every one of them.
Yeah, and I was actually just looking at results. We talked about Joseph earlier. That was definitely 2 years ago. It all seems to run together.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's what I was trying to think back to the Florida race, because last year that was Ben's first win back, and he stepped off his bike. He couldn't even walk. His leg was still so bad. And then I was sitting there thinking back to that, and then thinking about Joseph. He podiumed at Florida when he was here, and that's when you said that. I was like trying to think back. It's like, was that the same race or was that 2 separate years? So yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, it all runs together.
Yeah. But cool. Anyway, I think long story long. Great weekend of racing to look forward to. Great season of racing to look forward to. I know that we're both going to be out there. I know that everybody else is going to be out there as well. So I'm excited, man. Any other closing things or storylines that you can think of heading into the year?
Oh, let's see. Like you said, I'm ready to get down there. I think we're going down. There's a group of us going down Friday. Between Friday morning and Friday afternoon, kind of all rolling and set up. Just hope the weather holds out. It's showing a little bit of rain. It could probably use a little bit, but not a ton. So hopefully we don't have a mud race the first one of the year.
Yeah. Hopefully not. It looks primed to have another one of those hero dirt big bucks if everything works out according to plan.
Yeah, we always seem to end up with pretty good dirt with it being round one and not in April. So yeah, I'm excited.
Me too. Well, I'm excited that you joined us tonight. Thank you so much. I know this was kind of last minute and late night. But thank you for volunteering your time to come on and chat. Really appreciate it, and good to hear from you and all the thoughts on the season. I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, no worries, man. This was fun, and hopefully we'll do some more of these this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, all right. Well, I will see you this weekend. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you later on.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See you.